everyone. Today we're going to introduce magnetism. So you can open up in your new packet to page 4. If you have not watched this video yet, this video is linked to the QR code in your packet. You need to do so now. It's just a short little video, but it's a good visualization of what domains are. So please make sure that you watch that video before you watch this video. Okay, so now that you've watched the video, domains are sections of the object where all the electrons in that section have spin that point in the same direction. So this is just like in the video where those little soldiers were all in those same domains. They talked about kingdoms. So in this unit, we are going to represent domains by these little sections within a material, so those lines that make these sections. And arrows represent the electron spins within those domains. They do not represent the charge or the current. So we'll show you in a few slides what that looks like in our diagrams this unit. So materials with domains, not aligned domains, if you notice the next one is aligned domains. Materials with domains that are not aligned altogether are called ferromagnets. And these are objects that basically, a lot of these objects are familiar to you. So they're anything that has iron in them, ferro. So nails, aluminum, paper clips. Those are things that basically can become magnetized but are not magnets themselves. Materials with aligned domains are called magnets. So these things are like your typical magnets that are on your refrigerator, the bar magnets that you'll see in class. So these are what you would normally call magnets. Their aligned domains make them magnets. Materials without domains are called non-magnets or non-ferromagnets. So these are things that aren't magnetized even when they're near a magnet. So that's like paper, pencils, your classroom desk, glass. Basically, if you bring a magnet towards that object, these non-magnets are not going to attract to a magnet or repel from a magnet. So these are how we represent these different kinds of materials. The arrows represent those electron spins, and then these sectionings represent the domains. So this first example is a non-magnet because it does not have any domains, and this can never be magnetized. So it's not going to attract to a magnet or repel from a magnet. The second material has domains, but if you notice all those little arrows within one domain all point in the same direction, but between domains they do not point in the same direction. So like that bottom right-hand corner, they all point to the right. The upper right-hand corner, they all point down. So this is a ferromagnet because they do have domains, but none of them are aligned. So they're not aligned with one another. And this can be magnetized. So that's why when you bring a magnet close to a piece of, like a nail, it's going to pick up that nail. And then this last drawing is a magnet. It's a permanent magnet because these are all aligned domains, and this is always magnetized. So it has a particular way of being magnetized. It has a north pole, it has a south pole, and that doesn't change just by being under the influence or being brought close to another magnet. So I want you to take a moment and write down what is the main difference between ferromagnetic and magnetic materials in your packet. So actually write this down. Pause the video if you have not written this down yet. So magnetic materials always have aligned domains, whereas for ferromagnetic materials only have aligned domains when near a magnetic object. So basically what that means is that the electron spins within a domain all point in the same direction for a ferromagnet, but with the electron spins in this domain and the domain next to it don't point in the same direction. Okay, so now we're going to draw a bar magnet. So first thing, this is a magnet, so it has domains. So we need to draw sections that represent those domains. Next, we need to draw the electron spins. And so I said that all domains point toward the north pole of the magnet. So that means my electron spins all need to point to the left because my north pole is on the left. So I'm going to draw 3 arrows in this first domain. They're all pointing towards the north pole of my magnet. So they're all pointing straight to the left. So I'm just going to keep filling in these domains with electron spins that all point to the north pole of my magnet. So make sure you have this whole diagram copied down. There isn't one right number of domains or one right number of electron spins within your model for a magnet. You should fill the whole space. And you should have more than one domain within a magnet. Okay, so every magnet has a north and south pole regardless of the shape. So like poles repel and opposites attract, that sounds pretty familiar to something that we just did in Unit 6, like charges repel and opposite charges attract. So in the diagrams above, so that was what we just did, arrows representing the electron spin point toward the north pole and they point away from the south pole. So these 3 pictures at the bottom are different kinds of magnets and they show the north and south pole. So a horseshoe magnet, one end is the north, the other end is the south. With these cylindrical magnets, sometimes they're split like down the middle. Well, they're always split down the middle between north and south poles, but sometimes it's vertically split and sometimes it's more horizontally split between the north and south pole. So magnetic poles always act in pairs. Even when a magnet is broken in half, each piece retains equally strong magnetic poles. So we have a diagram in your packet. This is another diagram to show that even if you break down this magnet further and further, the north and south poles still share that domain. So in this magnet, all those domains have electron spins that point towards the north pole. So even when you break it in half, the electron spins in the right half of that break still point to the left. And so that north pole, that new north pole is created in that new magnet. So the Earth actually has a pole. So we have a north pole and a south pole, but our geographic pole is opposite of what our magnetic poles are. So if you look at these 2 diagrams, we would call the upper part of the Earth diagram the north, but that's actually our south pole. So that's just something for you to know. When we say that our compass points north, we are pointing to the geographic north pole, not to the geographic south, or the magnetic south pole. So we usually talk about it in terms of the geographic north pole. So this is this is an introduction to why ferromagnets become magnetized. So when we have a ferromagnet, the domains are not aligned. All those electron spins point in different directions in each domain. But then when we bring it close to an object that has a magnetic field, so any permanent magnet, those domains will actually align with the domains of the magnet that we're bringing it close to. So that's what this second picture shows, and in that ferromagnet we now have a south pole and a north pole. because those electron spins all point towards that North Pole. All those domains point towards the North Pole. So let's see what that actually looks like when we bring a magnet close to a nail. So first we need to draw a picture of our magnet. So it looks very similar to our previous magnet drawing where we have domains, and within those domains, those electron spins are represented by arrows, and all of those arrows point to the North Pole. With our nail is a ferromagnet, so it has domains, but those domains are not aligned. So I need to draw those electron spins within the domain the same, but between domains, the electron spins are not pointing in the same direction. But when I bring these two things close together, I know that the domains in the nail are going to align with the domains in the magnet. So now all of these electron spins are going to start to shift so they point to the right, just like the magnets. And so I should get something that looks like that. And now we have a South Pole at the left end of the nail and a North Pole at the right end of the nail, which makes sense because opposite poles attract, and we know that a magnet's going to be able to pick up a nail, and so they must be attracting. And so we have a North Pole of our magnet close to a South Pole, this new South Pole of our nail. Okay, so magnetic fields, we talked a little bit about this when we were talking about the Earth's magnetic field, and we were talking about ferromagnets under the influence of a magnetic field. So a magnetic field is a magnetic force distributed in the space around and within something magnetic. So this is why a magnet can attract something even without touching it. It's because of this magnetic field. So it's a vector diagram, so it has, if it's a vector, that means it has magnitude and direction. So think about Despicable Me. I commit crimes with magnitude and direction, vector. And magnetic fields are either constant or changing. So think about how you could create a constant magnetic field, and think about how you could create a changing magnetic field. A compass, we know, points towards geographic north, and a compass is actually a permanent bar magnet. So the little needle is a permanent bar magnet, and it's able to freely spin. So it aligns itself with the magnetic field lines. So basically, when it's in the Earth's magnetic field, it aligns with the Earth's magnetic field lines, and that's why it always points towards our geographic North Pole. But if you bring a compass, and we'll do this, close to a magnet, a permanent magnet, it's going to not always point towards geographic north, and instead is going to be aligning itself with the magnetic field lines of that smaller permanent bar magnet that's close to this compass. If the magnetic field is changing, the compass will keep trying to align with the changing magnetic field lines. So you can probably imagine what that's going to look like. It's going to keep changing. It's not going to know what to do. We'll get to see that soon. So now what I want you to do is turn to page 8 in your packet, and you are going to do station number 3 with your table. We actually have enough materials for you to do it in partners, but basically you're going to be drawing pictures for permanent magnets, ferromagnets, and non-magnets, and draw what's happening inside of those materials when they're attracting or not attracting or repelling from permanent magnets. So you're going to need a bar magnet, a nail, and a regular magnet, and your pencil or a pen, which you should have at your table. So you can use your notes on pages 4 and 5 to help you draw what the inside of those materials look like. And just a reminder, you are going to be using nails, so you need to make sure that you are using those safely and wisely. So that means Nails are not a toy. You should not be poking yourself or one another with them. You should only be using them for the purpose of this lab, which is to see what happens when you bring it close to a bar magnet. So please be safe with those, and I will see you tomorrow.